All right. Here we go again. Buckle up. We're going to start with, remember I told you that you shouldn't create so much friction. That's what inspires people to curse all of you and will you all down. You created a coalition during the election and you opted to diss off a portion of the coalition. So hell has no fury like supporter scorn. So what happened is you have people that are now energized against you that normally would have just really just ignored you. Right. Hmm. Well, it's really over. What happened in Canada is going to play out across the globe for the next at least 5 years. Right. That's the problem with moving so fast, so hard. Right. So there's theories within 8 years of a presidency. The first 4 years you go light, the next 4 years you go hard. But there's also in the first 4 years of your presidency, there's the midterms. Well, what you're supposed to do in the first uh, couple years of your presidency is make inroads with the other parties and other peoples and show yourself to be this above politics bipartisan player without giving away the house, giving away everything, right? Like I said, somebody might be manipulating Trump. I don't know who it is because whoever it is an idiot or a genius from the other side. Could be a double agent. Well, because I don't think it doesn't make any sense what he's doing. He's boxing himself in. He's boxing his whole administration in. You're not going to win against the judges. The judges are in the Constitution. And you'll if you look out, and you shouldn't hate on them because they know what they're doing. You'll see attorney generals and other things that are Republicans. They're not partaking in any bashing of any judge, and they know that these judges have helped us before, right? You'll be surprised who you see not saying anything. Now they may feel uncomfortable after I say this and say something to cover themselves over, but to go back into hiding, right? Well, you have two Supreme Court justices supporting you. You're not going to arrest a judge. The judges you're finding to arrest are pretty big egregious actions to a certain degree. The jury's still out on the judge in New Mexico as far as up to the point where he supposedly destroyed some evidence. You may not make that case. He may be found innocent. That's New Mexico. That's Bernalino or something like that. You're not going to find a good jury to help you. Well, because you know the judge living with a couple, few, like renting to these undocumented people that had documents that showed that they were lawful. Again, you blame it on the Biden administration. Right. Correct. That's really where it goes. If he looked at documentation that showed that they were legitimate and they weren't subject to deportation, why is he supposed to think they're criminals or gang members? I wouldn't know it. If these guys were cutting my lawn, I wouldn't know it. Right. I mean, Tren de Arrego, it's just not old hat stuff. It's only been about a year or so since that became a big issue. Right. Again, he, he lives in New Mexico. I mean, the tattoos and all that, it's everywhere. Right. Well, you don't see no present crime. There's no reason not to help. He's not harboring. They have paperwork. Again, this is a change with this administration. People have paperwork, and they're still seen as just because they're undocumented, they're seen as unlawfully present. Supreme Court. I don't know what the Supreme Court of New Mexico was doing in blocking him at that point. I don't know what information they had. They may have information that he destroyed evidence. That would be reason to do that if it was valid. So he panicked. I mean, they were cursing him from the White House itself once they knew he existed. So I'm just stating the truth, okay, of how this works. So what you did is you created a lot of communities that are energized that would normally have just another Republican president. But then again, you may not have gotten in. Well, you're actually killing the Republican Party. Last time conservatism was boosted by President Trump's being elected because I was guiding you, right? And I told you to hold back and then try some bipartisan stuff. Right? That's where you get your because that's what the people want. They want quiet, and if you do bipartisan, things get more quiet. Right? I'm not a guy that somebody's messing. Let me do something. Okay, just fixed. I'm not a guy that hates on immigrants, okay, or even undocumented immigrants, because a lot of them are here for reasons that are continuations of our attempts in the '80s to make it a better place in Central America, in Central America. So again, you know, sometimes they come here, we give them a better life. I realize I bought a house once. Maybe there was undocumented immigrants building it. I don't know, but it's known that prices prices for homes will be reduced when you use that kind of labor. Correct, sir. Correct. Again, this is something that's in our communities. It's not going to change. It's just not going to change. Again, the more aggressive you become, the less likely it's going to change. I mean, you may change it for a couple of years at the most. I mean, they're developing information to impeach Trump. Okay, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. And this, latest impeachment is kind of not going to go anywhere, probably. Right. Well, Vance could end up as president, and Vance, might see the writing on the wall and say, let's uh, let's become a little more bipartisan. And of course, he was like 2 years prior. And Trump was a little more bipartisan in his first administration. But see, it's like anything. Like fighting a war, even in like real estate. Buying properties. Let's think. What else? Football. What's the strategy? Cutting your nose off to spite your face is not a good strategy. We agree. Well, but what actually you're doing is you're ensuring that conservatives will be put out for probably at least 8 years. I don't think the Republican Party is gonna recover. Now you got a man that really don't care. I don't think cares. And is that his genuine mind or is that his manipulated mind? I mean, even what's unfolding with Russia is insane. No, they killed the Republican Party. The people who took me out killed the Republican Party. I'll tell you that. and they're Republicans, and there's some Democrats, of course, right? Because you can't move as this ultra right wing conservative. You got elected, which really you didn't get really elected on being an ultra right wing conservative. You got elected on being bipartisan. Right? Hmm. Well, the immigrant thing needed to be. I told the Democrats that they messed up. I told you Obama made. I told them online that Obama made the same mistake that you're making right now, and that's what put you all out before. Right? I believe in taking care of immigrants, including undocumented immigrants, but there is a limit. Well, the problem is the people that weren't going to work should never even stayed unless they were disabled, elderly, or something like that, right? Or too young to work. Right? That's it. The idea of them not working is BS, especially that we're bringing them in here to fix the economy. Right? There was no way to reduce inflation without undocumented employees. There's just no way. So again, this has been in the United States economy for a century. I mean, in California, the whole uh, organic food thing that started, I think, in the 1950s, was actually started with immigrant labor. So again, there's a history in this country of these undocumented immigrants really establishing things in our country that were well. Again, the idea of the $10, $20 tomato. You also, well, those people we fired from the federal government should just start working in the fields. If I was smart, when I left the government, I probably would have went working in the fields. I'd have married a Latino woman. It'd have been over, right? I wasn't against going back to work. I actually trained to go back to work, but they got in the middle. And it was obvious that they were going to launch the same exact thing if I went back to work. And these people became multimillionaires based upon attacking me in life. And of course, maybe Jonathan Luna, some other people. But again, it was all self dealing, is what it was. What they did to me in the government was self dealing. The churches were self dealing. Well, I told you how this works. I don't always know what's going on in the beginning of something. So I had to move towards the church with an attempt to join the church to learn what their church was. I don't mean that just that meeting house or just that stake, just LDS as it is. But at a certain point, it was identified by me that this is a lot for me to take on because I'm disabled and elderly, and I wouldn't be like this if it wasn't for them. And they laugh, oh yeah, Mr. Healthy, Mr. Healthy. See again, they obsess over something of a success in your life and destroy it beyond the level of needing to destroy it. Right? No, there's no choices. There's no choices when cops and dirty PIs and drug dealers and sex traffickers combine their given wealth, the corrupt wealth, their ill-gotten gains, and come after a single individual with an entire community of drug addicts and prostitutes. That's reality, man. Again, if you're a prostitute, you're a victim unless you did what I say those people did to me. If you're part of it, you're not going to get up for being a victim of prostitution. You're just not. God's got your numbers. Again, the planet has to be judged. I don't judge the planet, but I witness it. And I also go through it. And I experience things. No, they had no right. They were destroying my neurology the whole time, and I didn't know it. I mean, it took a lot to manifest what happened to confuse me on what I should have been doing. Right. Again, they planned it. Ha ha ha! They got rich for it. They'll go to hell for it. There's no doubt. I'm not here to play their game because they point to, oh, it's the trans, the gay, the drug user, the this, the that. Right. No, it's them. Read the scriptures. If you're not causing another to fall through your power, generally you're okay. And if you're not given much, right? So Jesus kind of said, when I had you here and you were doing God had you here doing the ark and all that, that was kind of easy. That you were in the right place. They're in the wrong place because they didn't want you going to stores as much. And when you did that, they attacked again. So they get like a feeding frenzy. Like it smells blood. They smell blood. Oh, no harm done. You're just going to put that spell out there? No harm done. Harm done, all of you. You'll go to hell, all of you. The planet's going to hell also. No, the Republicans will have no say. Within 2 years, they'll say that, within a year and a half, their say will diminish greatly. But within 4 years, they'll have no say. I mean, zero say. I'm telling you. Well, you can blame Biden too, because there's no reason for Biden to have went that far left. There's no reason. And as far as backing the judge, that I got their side of the argument that it's a judge, and the judge decided to do it that way, then the judge does it that way. But that is a crime, right? And we had it. That particular crime was identified previously. So at this stage of the game, when we look at it, what are we actually looking at? Right, a crime. Hmm. Make it- Now, what happened is my cranial tissues got tight like late last fall, and I didn't know to get massages. I thought it was sinus infections, and in fact, the antibiotic may have actually caused me to tighten up further because some people have that reaction, or some antibiotics have that. Ugh. And it started destroying all my discs. Some additionally, tightening my cranial tissue, destroyed my ears. Again, that's their spells. If you didn't give them way and allow them that way, again, you don't have to be them to go to hell. If you were given much in power and position, and you allow them to do that for any reason, then you'll go to hell for it. So if you're a chief of police, or you're a governor, or you're a president, or you're a congressperson, if you got power to stop them and you allow it, you'll go to hell for it. Oh, you'll live a grand life here. I mean, this is Satan's planning. Satan will reward you greatly. I mean, all that charity you did, no, it doesn't count. It's all fake. It's all an illusion. It's all Satan's scam. Satan actually required those people to need charity, so you would have somebody that Satan would allow you to engage in charity with. You see, they use the scriptures. Remember, Satan's reading that Bible while it's being written. While that Bible is being written, while scriptures all across the planet are being written, Satan is reading them because he's going to use them and counter them. He's going to counter them by using them. So they know the name more, and the amount of money they spent and putting these people different places to diss me, like kill more with more, or destroy more with more, or do more with more. That's how you do it. Do more with more. Right. What they're actually doing is speaking about themselves. That's how they took out your churches with Christianity, but not real Christianity, demonic Christianity. You'll go to hell. I'm just, again, I can forgive you, the physical being, and of all the people that have been around, I'm the one that has forgiven people. I've blessed my enemies for years. I've when I was in the Marshal Service, I never treated the people that did me bad poorly. I just tried to steer clear of them at a certain point. That would be all I ever did, right? Which would alleviate their anxiety where they have to try to kill me. Oh, they're murderers. They're not murdering the people. What they're doing is they're trying to alter the person into the person that would be acceptable to murder. And again, of course, that's not lawful. And in fact, the people that are quote unquote acceptable to murder are living great lives. I told you about that man in Texas. While Texas was trying to set me up and do all this crazy shit to me, the real child molester, the real registered sex offender, was driving around in a $75,000 pickup truck, was a part-time preacher at a church. He was all in. So they're not doing what they tell you they're doing. Correct. Well, the rain kind of cleaned my van, and now it's dirty again because I guess it was windy and rainy, and it put a bunch of weird stuff all over my van from one of the trees. I don't know what tree that came from. All you had to do was leave with my health, and God would have blessed the planet continually. I told you that before. They'll go to hell, man. You can worship these dirty cops and these dirty PIs and say they're the greatest investigators in the world. You know why they're greatest investigators in the world? Because they cause the crime they eventually solve. They're actually like an evil CIA operative type of operative. And they move CIA type operations. They select somebody in the community. That guy's going to be a criminal. He'll be a pervert. Make him a pervert. That's what they do. That's what they think they're there to do. That's what they think that, it's all cool. Ha, ha, ha. Make that person over there a sex offender. Make that person a bank robber. Make that person a drug addict. That's what they do, man. They'll go so far into hell, most people won't even see them because they'll be so far into hell. Even people that go to hell don't go that far into hell. They take pleasure in causing unrighteousness in others. They're in every church in the world. They're moving money now to put a conservative pope in. You already killed the conservative movement. You'll be lucky not to not get a pope left of Francis at this point. Cut off all that money. I'm just telling you what you did by not listening to me. No, they weren't supposed to be in my life like this. Not at all. Not even in Naples. You all got your houses down in Naples. I understand a lot of people got places in Naples that were part of this. Even people that I knew from government. Naples paid them well. Hmm. They did not heal not one of your children, not one of your places. They can't. All I can do is kill things and say, if you don't want to be killed, you do what I say. That's all they can do. Their father is the devil. They're murderers. Thank you, man. Well, when I was there about 6, 7 years. I healed and blessed a lot of children, a lot of people, a lot of places, a lot of things. But meanwhile, the money wasn't killing me. So you took that route and acted like, because you use cops and PIs, you act self-righteous. And then, of course, some of your cops were found dirty. And of course, you only fired one. Thanks, Larry. So they'll put thoughts in your mind behind me like, well, why would we do this? There's things we can't tell you. Meanwhile, they told you a bunch of shit anyway. So if you really think about what they're saying, well, you did tell us stuff. And it all turned out not to be true. Well, we had to say it that way because we couldn't say it the other way. I mean, they're full of shit. They are the cartels, man. Your dirty cops are the cartels. Your dirty PIs are the cartels. Quit lying to yourselves. They're the reason your kids are dying from drug overdose. Just so they can run their own criminal enterprise of extortion and racketeering. Oh, if you wanted a guy that just focuses on Christianity, then you shouldn't have launched your operation in the LDS church as well as probably the other churches you think I'm going to. Right. You don't get your cake and eat it too. Believe me, wait for life part 2. Wait for life part 2, the afterlife. You're all going straight to hell, and the hell you gave me on this planet is nothing compared to what you're going to experience for an extended period of time, longer than 100 years, longer than 200 years, at least 1,000 years. And that comes straight from the mind of God Almighty. Whether you worship Buddha, Jesus, or anyone else, that comes from God Almighty. And listen to me, Christian, Jesus said that he is not good because he is not God. If you can't read that, then why can you read the other part where he says, I and the Father are one? But you really can't read that because you don't know anything about metaphysics and spiritual life. All you know is extortion, racketeering, self-dealing. Yeah, laugh with them on the planet and watch you go to hell with them. What's happening is your power is now ebbing, or your anti-power. So now God has gotten back to my mind, and he's able to communicate better. That's what happened to me. But again, even you people that are coming against whatever it was now, right, you're still going to go to hell because you brought that moment of darkness to people such as myself being attacked by these criminals in government and other places. And that allowed them to do that to my life. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. You're not sorry. If you were sorry, the way it works on this planet, if you were sorry, I never would have had this problem because you would have changed it. But what the mechanism is that if you had not had that time to do that, you would have did it later. Like there's no way to undo it because you're not really sorry. You're sorry because why? Because you already got your money, you already got your place. Already, well, I wouldn't do it again. Meanwhile, you're sitting on millions of dollars, and that's the only reason you wouldn't do it again because you don't need to make your millions of dollars. I said enough to stop you all. I showed you enough truth to stop you all. Meanwhile, you're hanging out with these operators that are obviously causing people to fall. Say they're testing people. by destroying their mental health, by destroying their physical health, leaving nothing. Be honest with you, they know the science behind it. You can hear spiritually. You realize the spirits were saying that God got them again. Last time I tried moving towards a church was a long time ago. Now, and they blocked that. They took money to block that. Now they did it contemporaneously again. Only time will tell what the judgment will be. Here's one simple aging. I would have aged marvelously. It is not the reaction of a guilty man as to why it affected me that way. Quite the contrary. Because real criminals wouldn't be afraid of it. Right. Remember, they're still sitting in social media, altering what you see. There is no left and no right in social media. And nobody made over a few $1,000,000 without having it being given to them. I'll tell you that. And some of that is Russian money. Albeit some of it is laundered into the system. But again, dirty money is dirty money. But back when they began taking the Russian money, it was very illegal to do that. Right. Now they don't differentiate between a criminal and a law-abiding citizen. They just have a system that says that person becomes this, that person becomes that. In fact, Trump would not have probably even had a connection with Epstein, nor the other people, had these people not existed. So the people that are protecting Trump from whatever the fallout is of things are actually the people that put him into it. That's why I believe they're somewhere in his advisory chain. Well, they're keeping Trump off balance, so he needs them, quote unquote, instead of having a peaceful administration where he doesn't need them. And they'll be in the Democratic Party also. Right. It just goes back and forth and plays your minds. Well, it's just, the strategy of the first couple years of the presidency versus the second was thrown out the window because it doesn't work. Everybody knew years ago that you have to be somewhat bipartisan those first couple years, or it gets messed up. And you're making statements like people have to suffer after you said people don't have to suffer, and that's why they voted you in. Meanwhile, everybody's doing the Mar-a-Lago plastic surgery shuffle. I mean, they're looking at you like, okay, you're all this wealthy people, and you're saying we have to suffer. You know, yeah, they're going to suffer. They're going to lose like funny money. Like Elon lose actually starting to lose real money now, but right. But it's like funny money, right? Well, because you really can't spend that much money, and they're not going to. Right? They don't have as much money, but they got plenty of money. Right. I'm so sorry, Larry. I'm so sorry. Well, I don't know if that's the voices calling out from hell or where. Again, I forgave you, but I can't forgive you. Again, this is something of a patch to the scripture. Again, I was supposed to have a life kind of like, preachers of the past, big preachers, also like Joseph, not Joseph, Joseph Smith. Supposed to bring, clarify. I was actually going to clarify. I wouldn't bring that much information, but I'd clarify. Right. I'd also validate some of his information. Well, on the planet, they have this idea where, what is forgiven? I can't forgive you. You want me to forgive you? And Jesus said we should forgive you, but we have no power to forgive you. Right. So again, that caused a skewing in reality. There's a system on the planet that and again, it happens. Like if I forgive them, they might go up because Satan's trying to present an illusion that, you have a bad life because that person won't forgive you. Right. Trying to get them to attack that person, being me in some case. Right. I don't know what thing is. So I don't know what that thing wants. It was a cop being investigated. And he's paranoid. They're paranoid. What I can do? I'm not in the government. You have to understand something. There are people that hate me that'll get you to attack me because they want you to attack me, but they hate you also, and then they take you down. See? Yeah, there was. I was being followed, and again, I started checking out a few, not a lot, but a few. Like I would never do that, but then Goose was doing it. Like Goose and other people, they were checking out. That's they were saying that there was something going on. Remember we got to remember that license plate. We need to check it out. That kind of thing. And Goose was another deputy marshal, but a little senior. Right. No, now he says you're senior to everybody now. The real people. Again, the marshal service is fake, and I didn't know there was real people in there. So Guzman was so paranoid too that when he told me the marshal sold me out, which is not wrong. The marshal's not supposed to be selling out the deputies. He comes in, spends like a couple years there, and then he sells out all the deputies, and keeps all the crud like Henry and Shelton because they'll do his evil bidding. Right? Oh, he was horrible. If the Baltimore County detective had won, he was also a union rep, we'd have been okay. Because he would have stood up for us. Well, Deep State put him in because they knew they could manipulate him. I was told spiritually that he cooperated with the assassination of several state troopers and ended up committing suicide. So again, he's not really that was one of his strengths. He could bring in the state police from any state saying, I used to be a state trooper, now I'm a marshal, buddy. Or take his state trooper cronies, like that one guy. Like they spelled me. And then I didn't know what was going on. Right. Well, I don't know what he made, where he ended up. They probably gave him a big position in state police. I forget his name. He was setting me up and running back to the marshal. Right. Well, it took a while for me to get all the information. Again, I'm not going to do somebody dirty. That's not my job. That's not It's not it's not even legal, right? So if an FBI agent comes into our office that they want done dirty, I'm not going to do them dirty. But it turns out there's FBI agents that want them done dirty and deputies that want them done because they're part of that thing. I know they're not ruling somebody; they're trying to kill people, and then they get up. They get given stuff by Russians and other people in their little secret world. So that was again the idea that they can't trust me to violate law and harm somebody. Somebody killed Jonathan Luna. I'm not saying it's actually the face people in the investigation may not have been part of it because there's operators in the background, right? But that's how they get the face people to cooperate. Well, you were investigating when he killed himself or when he died or whatever it was, right? Well, I do believe, I don't know who Jonathan Luna's lady friend is. And again, she probably should have been my lady friend. We'd have been great. She could have fixed my life and I could have helped her with her cases. All she had to do was show them to me and I could I could figure them out. And she actually needed somebody to counterbalance where she was going. Some CSOs, court security officers, started talking about her, how she was just kind of over the top a little bit much. Right. And I don't know if she ever chilled. Right. And then people would just start talking about her too. Right. I don't know if any of it was true or was a setup. Well, FBI agent Steve said she was like a homebody type. Right. She just took care of her dogs. And I guess they knew, again, because there was surveillance on us. Right. So they knew what was going on. Right. My whole thing, I told the investigator at the Jonathan Luna thing, and they didn't investigate me right away because they knew where I was. Right. So I was like one of the last people to be interviewed because, well, you knew where Larry was. We were investigating. He was at home, actually talking to one of our people. Right. Right. And, right. Although that night I got off the internet early. So again, their spells and their wills are playing out. Because I'd have been on the internet probably till like midnight, and I got off like 10:30 or something. I think it was. Check the logs. I think it was 10 or 10:30. Right. Thanks, Larry. I had no idea what was real at that. And that's the goal. So you don't know what's real and what's fake. Right. Well, they took care of her in life. I mean, she was taken care of. I tried to like come above ground and get into the missing exploited children, and these spies blocked me. Right. Like when I left the government, I was trying to link up and I couldn't. Right. Thank you, Larry. I started making an internet page and I put the link on there to missing exploited children. And then they started an operation for missing exploited children to harass me. Again, at the end, my continuity of work, and that's why I brought that scam up about the other CIA guy, that he may have been actually working with CIA people, right? Like he says, because what they do is they screw you up, and you make the wrong choices. So it looks like you're doing something wrong, but you're not, right? So what would happen is when I found something, or they thought I found something, because a lot of times you can't find it till you find it. Again, you can. Again, I tell everybody you have to look at the entire video sometimes to find the child porn in it because they were hiding it, right? Thank you. In like adult pornography, right? So like in the center of an adult pornography compilation is child pornography, right? Thanks, Larry. So what they do is I'm trying to get with a woman. So what they're doing is, like while I'm investigating, if they think I'm onto something, they would bring a woman and make me think the woman was interested. And what do you think I did? Or the same woman, she show up again. Oh, there's that woman. Let me try to, right. So what do you think happens? My stuff goes into the background and I'm just trying to focus on this woman. So I'm sitting on top of evidence that I submit late kind of deal, and it isn't like official government thing. I'm, doing it through other channels, right? And when I reported on that steroid organization, and they turned my life completely upside down. I reported to the DEA. Now, the DEA said, well, we don't really investigate this that much, but we got your reports. Right. Well, and again, this isn't why I reported it. It's just, I never knew whether that was like the people that were trying to destroy me, trying to set me up, which could have been some law enforcement people involved. Right. Because I told this guy, it makes no sense. I told him, I said, look, I don't use anything illegal. I only use over-the-counter stuff like pro hormones. Right. I said, I don't use this other stuff. Right. And again, when I was going to buy some pro hormones when this happened in Texas, and it probably would have worked, they just freaked me out. My order didn't get shipped. Then they came around me. They put one of those placards. Again, I'm being terrorized by these people and probably drugged. They put a placard on a vehicle that had the same name of the company as the supplement, so it freaks you out because they've been around me at that point for like decades, right? And they know if you get into a normal life, it goes away. Right? Like even just talking to the therapist, I'm sure they're working over the therapist. I'm sure she's pissed, but she's a Christian, so she does it a certain way, right? Thank you, Larry. So what happens is I miss her appointment. And all of a sudden, 2 appointments come up in the next night. And that may have been her trying to provide that opening, because I missed my appointment, or right, or them. They cancel a couple of appointments, just trying to, hey, it's us. We're right. I mean, they might be trying to indoctrinate her, right? But she appears to be a real Christian, and she's not ultra conservative. Again, you can be conservative, but you can't be ultra conservative as a Christian, because then you go into the other side, making the errors in the other direction. Well, Christianity is actually live and let live. Right. Paul, if you can see, you have to understand. The way to understand is understand what happened to Paul. Paul gave all that information, correct, and then he had to re-give it because it all went too far one direction or the other direction. So he bracketed it a lot. You're not to embrace sin, but sin's going to happen. And the scripture says, if you say you're not a sinner, then you're a liar. The New Testament is very interesting. Now, a lot of Jews knew these truths because who's Jesus? Who are the disciples? They're Jews. And they kind of wrote these things down. Well, I wish they'd have let me live my life, and a lot of Jews and a lot of Christians, inside at least, that wish that would have happened because it's beautiful what I could put together of what was actually happening around the advent of Jesus Christ. And what was happening to the Jews is the same thing. He's not a non-Jew. And what he developed was actually a sect of Judaism. And again, if a Christian says Jesus says he's God, right? Rabbi Yeshua ben David says he's God, go back to what he said. He says, one of the most famous lines they don't even speak about because he says, they call him good. He says, don't call me good. There's none good but God. Right. And then he talks about being sent. The one that's sent can't be the one that sends. I mean, you could think of some science fiction thing where that would work, but, not really. Well, him and the Father are one is a metaphysical. Like possession is what happens is you and the demons that possess you are one at that point. You see. Again, Alexander McLaren, I'll post his thing on Mark 5, his commentary on Mark 5. Right. So again, it's the same. What happens in the satanic and the evil world is all the things that God put out there for spiritual work of goodness were perverted into evil. And that's part of the possession. We're in a network. We can connect to one another. Well, basically, God didn't build certain defenses because the need for that defense didn't exist and is not understood necessarily at the highest level of God. Hmm. Again, God showed me that God has the ability to decrease and increase. Well, sometimes God wants to live a life like us, kind of. So God will take a form and dumb himself down and live with us somewhere, right? Over the rainbow, far, far away. So there are hints that God understands the sexuality and gender and all of that, but it doesn't necessarily make sense to have an opinion one way or another because Paul kind of again brought a lot of information, and the problem with the scriptures is you can cling to one side and not be wrong. Right? If you opt to not rebuke, you're never wrong. But if you're not rebuking, pray for people, heal them with a charitable mind. Well, if you run the course of the scriptures, rebuking can get you in a lot of trouble and get God in a lot of trouble. Right. Well, if we look where the scriptures start, even in the Old Testament, and where they end in the Old Testament, it's a different world, isn't it? Right. There was progression. It's got to be the nastiest year for weather in quite a while. Right. I mean, this is just disgusting weather out there, day after day. No sun. They're still willing, trouble into my life. They're still spelling me because I'm speaking out. But how could you say that? If I don't speak out, you do it even more. Right. Because you consider he's on the run now. He's not speaking out. Oh, they launched close-in attacks. These people that make complaints about me work for them, man. Right. Yeah. That's how they do it. They put their people around you and they keep making complaints. They do the same thing in the workplace. They put their people around you or they hire people on. Correct. You're all not sorry. You all think this is the funniest life you've ever had, right? Most of my life was, after they did this, was spent alone. They want to tell you, well, you don't see him down at the club, you don't see him here, you don't see him. Oh, he's out there at the gay bar in Albuquerque or Miami. That's what they did. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting at home with nothing to do because, again, they wore me out. And again, I don't want to bring people into that world and be responsible for their fallenness. Again, the key was just to let me have my health. And God never would have moved anything else. They can't stand it. They're sick. They got Satan in it. They and Satan are one. They can't stand it. They could be your preacher today. Everybody knows what the scriptures say. You just don't want to agree to it, all of you. No, trans people are most likely, the explosion of trans people is the work of conservatives and church members, as well as some other religions. Oh, they spell it into existence. They go, there, lo, Satan is there, lo, Jesus is not there. Right. Again, being a trans person is a physical thing. Well, the scriptures, you have to know what they say. Right. Even you'll know them by their works. What does the scripture say about knowing them by their works? Satan himself appears as an angel of light, as ministers appear as ministers of righteousness. So can you know them by their works? Does the scripture actually tell you that you'll know them by their works? No, it doesn't say that. Because you all want to just focus on on how to make Satan's kingdom bigger by calling it, and call it God, and maybe by calling it God. 100%. Thank you, Mary. I'd have been the greatest preacher on this planet, at least up until this time period. But again, I think preaching's dead, and it's going to stay dead. I'm not condemning it. I think God did. See? You can't know them by the works. Again, only God can see the heart. Right. And Paul said, "Do charity and forget the rest." I mean, it's plain and simple. Not very charitable what you did in my life, and I'm not the only one. All right. So the Lord said, "You shall know them by their floors." So He said, "Don't go to a church that has a road. It'll make you sick." Right. Mm. But that's also something to help the churches, that they need to start looking into removing the rugs. There are, flooring options that are softer, that are, a solid floor, that give a little bit. There's also, you can get flooring that has more traction. A lot of people are doing it in their homes. Obviously, they're doing the engineered floors. So you need to start working on that in the churches. And of course, they're much easier to clean. Mop in a bucket versus, the vacuum cleaners really don't do much. And then you have to get a steam cleaner if you want to keep it clean every so often. So it just makes sense to move in that direction. Mop in a bucket may take a little bit more time, but you're going to get a much cleaner floor. Right. So again, they knew more about my health than I did, even from the beginning. No, all they had to do was move away and let me seek my real life, and then it would have worked. Again, I went to California. I was doing yin yoga, and that was working. God doesn't care about where I am in life as long as it's well for me and I'm healthy. It's always been true. Again, you're just too ignorant to see what's going on. Again, 9/11, that was a judgment, and I'm not saying that terrorists should exist. I'm telling you that was a judgment from God. You lost the protection of God over you. I'm not saying they're with God. Again, God uses bad people when it's time for judgment. Well, he'd been killing me for years at that point. I didn't even know it back then. Again, they're very deceptive. They're Satan. They are actually Satan incarnate. God told me that Satan cannot live on this planet without the people I speak about. Again, he didn't say it like that. He said these people are Satan incarnate. Yeah, that's who they are. I don't care whether the best Christian you ever met. Again, what do they appear to be, an angel of light and a minister of righteousness? Is that what they appear as? And you can't figure it out? So again, you killed the conservative movement. Liberals are thanking you from Saskatchewan to Newfoundland, from the Yukon to Ottawa. No, it's obvious that the world's going to eventually take completely liberal. You actually got a lot of liberal people to vote for Trump or not vote at all. That's not going to happen. So what would have happened in 2024 is now going to happen in 2028. He held it off for 4 years. Actually, it might even might start much sooner. It actually has. Well, everything you're doing is going to be wiped away. I mean, they'll keep some of it. Again, they got to keep immigration under control and keep the budget better under control. Right. Well, these young Democrat, people that were influencing the administration were moving money out to the cronies. Right. Now, within that moving money out to the cronies was actually CIA payments to people that were going to help us or trying to be recruited to help us. Right. Well, they just have to tell us when something's going on, and they get to have a little extra income. Right. They just report to whoever. Again, USA, they said, we make intelligence reports. They even came out and told you we create intelligence reports. You should have figured it out. Well, you can change the program and where the money's going. No, I mean, again, saving money is saving money if we're saving money. Right. I mean, I guess you can beat inflation by making everybody poor. But again, they call that recession. I mean, there's people that downright hate Trump they're conservatives right now. They just lost millions and millions of dollars. I mean, it takes you know, little joy, and the money goes back up. I mean, people are losing money. Again, people are backing out of houses. Like I told you, they don't have the money they had to buy the house. Now that might fix the market a little bit, the housing market. Nobody's going to be around to buy houses. Well, again, like I told you, a lot of people have a skewed view of the world. Like I'm sick and disabled, which means I'm inferior to them. But they're the ones that hired and paid millions of dollars to make me sick and disabled. It's insane the way they think. It's absolutely insane. Correct, sir. They paid millions and millions and millions of dollars to do this to me, man. It may have been the payment again could be a secret CIA type payment, whether it's CIA or not. Right. Give them contracts and other things. Right. Those people getting those contracts, those screwy contracts, are deep state. But again, Elon was part of that once upon a time. Again, the idea of who you all actually are. Right. All you got to do is bring money, and you'll all cave. You can't get rid of the deep state. Right. We'll bring a little extortion, a little money, and you'll all cave. Right. When my Ring cameras working, the Lord was able. See, I know the Lord's back a little bit because I was able to get this. I googled it a million times. Somebody must have been blocking it. Like Ring camera AC adapter or something. Never came up. But actually, Ring makes one. Right. Because then I would have known it was 24-volt, not 18. They kept representing it as 18-volt on Amazon. Right. Well, I like having the Ring camera there because I like Ring camera, the community thing, the neighbors thing. I like reading that every so often as to what's going on around. Sometimes it comes up maybe just some sort of ruse by some deep state member, but that's okay. All you had to do is leave me with my health, man. All you had to do. But again, my life would normalize, and I'd have a normal life. Well, if I have my druthers, the majority of something came up, they asked a question. Majority of the pedophile ring of sex ring type thing is it might be Asian or Latino. I would say is most likely based in the cities, easier to hide it. But I wouldn't. Who knows? There is one where again it's psychic information. Take it with a grain of salt. But where they deliver the child, that could be happening anywhere. And then the person has the child for whatever the hours they pay for. And I believe there is like a 24-hour price if they want to have the child, and then they come and pick the child up next day. So it's like a make it look like a babysitter or something like that. Hmm. That would probably be difficult to find if it was being hidden. Again, if cops are on the take, they may not want to find it because they may be one of the paying members. They don't. Again, they can't allow every sex trafficking thing to pay and be part of it because then they wouldn't arrest anybody. They have to arrest somebody. Bless your lunch. No, pretty much 5 years ago is really pushed my health downward, and I didn't know what to do. Couldn't even think of it. Again, it took decades and decades of psychological operation to cause it. A lot of deception. Believe me, they're with Satan. It has nothing to do with what I do or what I say. It has nothing to do with it. Right. Agreed. I work with a bunch of lunatics, man. I really did. I mean, not everybody, but majority of people in the government they're just bad people. A lot of self dealing going on secretly, where you can't really maybe prosecute, but it's all self dealing. So again, realize the criminals are actually living a good life. Right. The majority of criminals are living a good life. Again, efforts to only go after immigrants is taking away from law enforcement. So the administration is moving in non-conservative ways, and it needs to be careful because when you're looking at impeachment, again, I'm advising you same way I advised you before. When you look at impeachment, you destroy law enforcement because you're obsessed with immigrants. You can end up getting impeached if they prove that you destroyed law enforcement. Right. I mean, okay, you all did something with your taxes, so now we're decreasing this. I mean, if people don't pay their taxes, how is this all going to work? Yeah, Elon might be lucky pulling himself out of Doge. We said, "Well, I wasn't there 24/7. I couldn't stay because it's going to be a mess. The figure's going to be a mess when it's all said and done. If you keep going the same direction, because you're not going to have the tax revenue that Biden had. See, it's a double-edged sword, right? Or a catch-22, should I say? I agree, Larry. So all these cuts you're making, it's just it may be futile. Right? I mean, there's some cuts you can make, but again, they chose because liberals were in the system. they chose liberal programs to fund overseas. You could do the same thing with conservative programs. Again, if we pull out of Africa, Russia and China are going to own Africa. %. I mean, you're just giving it away. I mean, I don't know what you're actually doing. I don't know who's advising the president, but none of it makes any sense. Well, I told you what to do the first administration. I told you meet with Putin, don't listen to him. Meet with Xi, don't listen to him, and make deals. I said we should be part of Silk Road. We should have ourselves in the middle of that. Therefore, it's not used for nefarious purpose. We all use it to better the world. I mean, you have no clue. It's just like bipartisan works. Paul was Paul in the scriptures was bipartisan, but because that's how he spread the gospel, by being bipartisan. He didn't offend the people. He said, "Okay, you have your world, but I believe in this. I am fully convinced of that." You're not Christians. You're not conservatives. You're lunatics. Same as the people I work with. Lunatics. Walking around cutting their nose off to spite themselves or spite their face. Well, I could have an okay life and still, help the government. I even actually did help the government. You'll hear her saying that she's not sorry. That's just what they teach them to say. Or piggish people. I'm sorry. No, it's not paranoia. These people exist. They're around me. They create a false world. They take over communities. They always self-deal. They're responsible for narcotics distribution and sex trafficking that does make it through and that is protected by corrupt law enforcement and others. Believe me, the people that are in this are shown that while other people are arrested, they won't be arrested. Some of what they're doing is kind of recruit me, I guess, trying to show me that. Trying to show that they controlled the up and the down, but they were just too corrupt. People that were doing it were sold the system out. Correct. So they kind of feigned it. Well, because they didn't want a nice guy who believed in civil rights and equality. Again, I told cops, you need civil rights more than the person on the street does. And of course, now we got cops going away for life, and for nothing. And again, if you make a cop feel that powerful, they'll kill somebody, and then they'll go to jail. So it doesn't really do what they say it does. And then what do they tell you? Well, now we got to rule even harder. They put one of us in jail. Right. I'm lucky to make it to 16 years old. I really am. Jonathan Unit died in his 30s, I guess. A couple other marshals. Oh, you tortured me the whole time. It's like being in a prisoner of war camp. It makes you sick. Like they're told what to say. So people don't know you and they come up and say something. Right. So they have this, clique of criminals, really. Santa Fe was founded on narcotics distribution. I'll tell you that. The modern Santa Fe. All the white people that have property. Right. They were hippies, but they were drug dealers. So they're still drug dealers in their, them and their kids. Still drug dealers. So what they do is they take over the federal programs and they administer the federal programs like NGOs and stuff. And if they say no money, you don't get money. It's exactly what happens in most places inside, like Satan. But if somebody gets by and gets money, right, then these people step in and say, no, don't give that person money, or they'll kill them out of the program. All I had to do was stay in massage. It was that easy. I wasn't doing anything. They were trying to sexualize me in massage. They're sick. Right. I never sexualized the massage itself. I became a little paranoid about what was going on there, but and I kept my eye on these people. Right. I tried to play it off because I didn't want them to, I didn't want to flip the triggers of investigating them as to what they're doing because they're trying to sexualize me, Right. And they're not just presenting opportunity. They're trying to sexualize. I mean, 24/7 isn't just in the massage place. Well, I told the guy, and you've heard me repeat it over the years, and I'll let you in on it now. I'll say I told him I was yogic and I just stay connected to people, but you couldn't trust a single one of them. Right? Somebody was paying money and they were wanting it. There's no doubt. I mean, there is no massage therapist. And I know she's not 19. She's probably a 20. She was probably a 27 to 30-year-old Matahari, right? Probably running out having sex with somebody else every time she left the massage place, right? Inside the massage room, she had a pretty good persona going, but when she walked outside to her vehicle, and I was sometimes out there for whatever reason, I'd linger for some reason, not to stalk anybody. Maybe they would put that bullshit out there, but just I'd linger for some reason. She'd come out, and I'd look at her. I'm like, nah, she ain't 19, and she ain't innocent. She'd be a streetwalker if the corrupt people didn't hire her, even if it was the state of New Mexico or the feds or both. 100%. You're a nasty whore. 100%, Larry. Thanks, Larry. But I told them I was yogic and I stayed connected because I thought maybe they were freaking on the fact that I was watching them. Right. Thanks, Larry. Now, they did things to make me paranoid, so it's not misplaced paranoia. Right? I don't know if you call it paranoia, but you have to be hyper vigilant with them around. Right? Oh my God. Well, I got my phone in there. I got my bag in there. If I'm not watching her, she walks by my bag, wipes something on it. I touch it, and I'm drugged. Right. 100%, Larry. Thank you, Larry. And they're not beyond that. Not at all. Thanks, Larry. See? Or even my shirt or whatever it is. You can do it to my shirt. Right. But I told the guy, I said, your people have been screwed up for months. And I don't even know if he was the real owner. Right. Tried to be gay with me, I know that. They may have been trying to get me out of there, because they get paid if I leave, but it also could have been that they could have been actually a sex ring. I don't know. And that's how they play it. Again, projection. Well, if you were just a normal massage therapist, I'm a good client. I'm a great client. I do a 2-hour massage. Again, that can be a bit much for people, but these are young people. They do a 2-hour massage, and then I tipped you like I don't know, $25, $30. That's pretty good back in the day. back then it wasn't inflation and all that. Right. So what trumps that? Well, somebody comes in from the outside and pays you just to get rid of me, and you're actually a sex massage parlor, and I'm not going to be one of those type of clients. And I'm a former cop, so you want me out of there, right? Well, she, and I'll bring it up again. I kind of got lost there. She is massaging my leg, and she bends her top of her body down within, I don't know how many inches, but inches, up to 6 inches, probably about 6, away from my genitalia. Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do that, right? Under normal circumstances. Right. I still don't know what the complaint was. They never went over that. Right. Now I wrote Massage Envy proper, but I don't know if they ever got the email, because I know they block emails. The deep state does that. Is. I should have stayed in Arizona, and that's obvious. Right? They wouldn't have probably did that in Arizona. That's deep state home territory. I don't think, or that's Massage Envy home territory. I don't think they would have done it. Right? They've definitely improved some of what's going on in there, and let it be known that the customer is right. So don't do anything to the customer. It was bizarre. I mean, they would have these like role players, and I'd go into Lowe's, and a woman would start cross my path and look at me, and then at a certain point, she would reverse it, like hate on me. I have no physical involvement with that person, no conversation with that person, ever. Yeah. I mean, it's that whack. That's what they make the reality of your life. Again, that's why we're having trouble in the world. We could have fixed everything. I could have fixed everything on my own, just advising all of you, and did fix many things. There's no reason. Again, the idea Hamas is wrong. Killing children is wrong, no matter who you are. So again, both sides are wrong. But Israel's wronger because they were the power structure. And we tried to make peace earlier. And they just did not seek peace. Right. So again, it's like my life. That's why Mossad is most likely involved in what happened to me, because they show the MO, modus operandi. It takes a while, but they alter their victim. They, so again, we could have caused October not. We could have caused 9/11 not to happen. We could have caused October 6th or J6, October 7th. I guess J6, 07. 07, get it? Yo, completion. No, if you're not trying to bring peace, then war is going to happen. And I identified a lot of psychology that would cause October 7th. Right? Not to say it's right, but again, you're the power structure, you're the law enforcement, you're the intelligence entity. You have to move programs to keep the peace, unless you don't want to keep the peace. God bless you, Larry. They're nuts, man. When you don't say something, they say you have to settle down. I think if I settle down anymore, I'll be dead. I was in Naples. I was talking to the guy that owns the Italian restaurant, and they put a message through him that I just need to settle down. But that's a scam, right? I wasn't doing anything. All I had to do was stay away from me and let me live my life. It would have just took its course. I'd have found a woman. I'd have been in church. I'd have found my health. I actually did at times, and then they come in. It's not just the stress, right? They're drugging people. They're sick. They'll go to hell, man. They'll all go to hell. There's no doubt they're going to hell. There's no doubt. They're like the only people that it's surety that they're going to hell. I'm so sorry. We agree, Larry. It may not mean anything to you, but I'm 60 years old, and it means a lot. But I'm going to heaven, not hell. It's always meant that, actually. Once God woke me up, that was it. I mean, there's no way. Again, I plead as Paul did. I mean, as Peter did. Who am I to defy God? I spoke to God, man. God spoke to me many times over. In fact, I received a message today that you're in the right course. Right? Jesus' yoke is easy. Light, or light, light, and they're in the middle. Get them out. So again, if I have to put forth an effort to get there, then again, it's the church will tell you that it's not. The church will say, "Well, you have to work to get to Jesus." Right? Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I've yet to go to a church that is actually that. Right? Now, deep state, they go to the bar, it's like that. They go to the church, it's like that. They go to the prostitution place, and it's like that. They go to the government job, and it's like that. Again, they launched a multi-pronged effort to block me from church again. So be prepared. I'm sure God's going to act. And they'll say, "Oh, see, that's dangerous." Then every person in the Bible is dangerous, right? You'll know them by their works. No, what they were going after me for is they realized that I would investigate outside the box. That's really it. Thanks, Larry. But again, I didn't know anything. I thought it was real. I didn't know I was supposed to investigate outside the box. Because when I was investigating, I thought eventually I would bring this above ground and find somebody to receive it. Right. I mean, it boggles the mind. It boggles the mind that they were allowed to do any of it. It doesn't matter if you understand that you're not supposed to do this to me. You have to understand that before you do it. Again, the scriptures have this point of no return. And that point of no return is what you're all doing. So you're actually required, it's not like your first sin, right? It's a progression of sin to be the thing that we wrestle against. So before you become the thing that we wrestle against, and the Lord may even overlook that a couple of times, right? Then you need to make sure that you're right before you get there. Oh no, you destroyed my neurology and my discs and everything. Y'all think it's funny, right? Y'all think it's funny. You'll see fun in hell. You'll see fun in hell. You gave up the forever for some money here, for some ha ha here, for some self promotion, for some self dealing here. You gave up forever, all of you. You gave it up. Like I told you, a lot of these people, they're awake in grade school, and they're willing their other uh, grade school children into hell in their life. Getting sick, fathers losing money, losing a job, getting raped, getting murdered. They're the proprietors of crime. They're the proprietors of rape and murder. They're the sickest of the sick. We're the neighborhood watch. We're the popo. Ain't neither, but both. Perpetrating frauds. They're crazy, man. Every last one's a crazy piece of shit. They got money, big deal. That'll show you where that money brings you. That'll show you what that money brings you. I mean, I protected some of the federal workers, but a lot of those people that lost their job were people that did this to me. Right? Now, they'll get back in. They'll probably get $1 million and all that eventually. They'll be like, Shazak and all them. Right? Have the option of coming back. And you have to understand, these people that are resigning are your experience base. You're not going to win any of these court cases because you're just using bullshit. Because the people that are running these places are defense attorney minds, so they use bullshit. Bullshit may have got you elected, but you're not going to win any cases. You're boxing yourselves in. You never were supposed to be around me like that. Never, ever, ever. Some of these people already passed from life to hell. I hear from hell every so often. I'm sorry. I was like, I can't forgive you. Only God can. And God may not even be able to because you all made such a tangled web of bullshit. Thank you, Larry. There you go. Things dropping on the floor. A little satanic presence. Is your little devils going to think to me today all day like they've been the last few days? Having fun thinking to me, trying to put skewed thoughts in my mind? Again, this exists. It's in the scriptures. My religious right to speak the truth, even if the churches and religions speak falsehood all day. I have a right to speak the truth. When you deceive yourselves, it doesn't mean that people lied to you and that's why it happened. If you deceive yourselves, it doesn't mean that somebody lied to you and that's why it happened. And they try to play that game. I'm obsessed and that's why I'm speaking over an hour. I got mental illness. That's why I'm speaking over an hour. No, I'd like you to hear what I'm saying. I don't need to be sitting in my apartment by myself speaking out. Okay, so Jesus was on the planet, and I'll explain something how you harness also in government the power of Jesus. Right. Thank you, Larry. When you're doing good things for people, then you get the blessing of God in government. Again, if somebody is not at the level of judgment, they may be in government asleep, and that wouldn't be held against them. Hang on, give me a second. I got to find something here. I mean, all I do is stay away, and my health would have stayed. They're trying to say, "Well, it just gets worse as he goes." No, they come and they come and go, so they can say it's just aging. Right. That's why they don't do it all at once. It's a big scam. Hmm. Well, there's a question on. All right, what environment am I on? What? There we go. We got to adjust some things here. I just changed hearing aids. I might have to get rid of these. Yeah, I can't control it with all my devices, so it makes it difficult. So really, it was a count your blessings economy. Right. When Trump left, everything was a mess. Right, because of COVID. Biden did some right things, he did some wrong things. The problem with Kamala Harris is she wouldn't defy Biden. She wouldn't speak the ills of the administration enough. Right? She hinted that she was going to do it different. You just can't bring that many immigrants in. You can't force uh, liberal ideology again. Woke. I don't know if it's woke again. They have their idea of woke ideology too. So again, there's cancel culture in the Republican culture. There's woke ideology in Republican wokeness. Right. So again, they do both do the same things, kind of, but you can't go past a certain point. Right. Well, the Republicans are already gone past that certain point. They're ready. People are ready to throw them out. At least Biden had a couple years in there, right, or a year in there or so. But there's these things that, like Jesus was on the planet, he blessed certain things. So Biden was doing some charity. It just he sullied it with all the BS he was into and his people were into. Right? Well, what you have to do is define space. Everybody gets it. Like right now, the Republicans are going to enlarge their space and decrease the space of anybody they don't like. Right? Democrats do the same thing, but then you lose blessing on that. Well, that's probably why the economy stayed up. That's why the market stayed up. Right. Because there was a blessing on the charity that was being done. But you ultimately lost your minds and lost the thing because, well, like I said, people coming in, you should have regulated that better. You needed a large number to bring the inflation down. Again, the question is whether we're going to see inflation because of the immigrant deportations are cutting into the workforce. Right. See that again, that's what you're doing is a double-edged sword. You're trying to get your numbers up, so you're going after everyday people. Right. 100%. But that may kill the economy. All right, here we go again. I got to get back up. They just ripped out my cords with their munch. Got caught on the handle on the drawer. Well, people don't. Again, people didn't listen to it when Biden said it. They're not going to listen to it when you all say it. You're going to go Biden, Biden, Biden. They're already making fun of you by saying you mentioned Biden 100 times in 100 days, or 300 times in 100 days, or whatever it is. Right. You're going to say people have to go through larger issue to get us forward of the issue was smaller issue that was here before. They're not going to listen to that. It sounds like a grifter to them. You're correct, Larry. You're correct. She was not supposed to be in my life. None were supposed to be in my life. They're all corrupt. And these cops, I was just appalled. The young cops that were part of this. So I'm in Santa Fe, and somebody walks up to me, and he's got a young girl with him, and he's asking for money. And I forget how it went down, but I called the cops. I said, "Look, I don't know what's going on here. The guy's panhandling, and he's got like a 10-year-old girl with him, and I'm just concerned about the health and welfare of that girl. Could you send a cop over?" I said, "Sure thing." I was on my way into the gym. So a cop comes driving in, this young cop who turned out to be part of it, Santa Fe cop, piece of garbage, sold out the deep state young. He comes in, I say, Are you responding to a call about a panhandler with a young girl? He just gets shitty on me. No. Right. He had this face. I'm like, better day I'd smack him in that face. Right. Should have been his boss. Then they would have been honest. And fair. I'm not saying about putting everybody in jail. I'm not talking about it puts everybody. That's all spirit of the law. What you all do is not spirit of the law and not letter of the law. You play letter of the law when you want to go after somebody for corrupt purposes. Right. Here I am reporting something that looks screwy, like maybe he's prosecuting, and they may not even care. I mean, it may be that bad. Like you just do it. You just prosecute. You just go after the people that we tell you to go after. Everybody else gets a free ride. I mean, that girl maybe that may be sex trafficking, right in front of me, and they don't care, right? Why? Because nobody. If the boss doesn't call, then nobody calls, right? Thanks, Larry. They say they're reading this stuff. I was so pissed. They brought bait girls in again. Like after I've been back into the gym, this one gym for a couple years, they bring a bait girl in. So I start staring her down, and then the lesbo handler who's been having sex with bait girls probably for 30 years, older woman, missing exploit or not, I don't care. There's a reality of everything. She's all looking at me and shaking her head no, like I'm trying to pick the girl up. Right. That was probably a report. He was obsessed with young girls. No, I'm obsessed with you destroying people's lives and murdering deputy marshals, U.S. attorneys, and everyone else that's just simply trying to do their job, you pieces of shit. You Rick Henrys and Karen Sheltons and Chief Quicks. Anybody else that was involved. I'm not supposed to have to walk in front of your bake girls with you willing sexual feeling up all day long for 30 freaking years. You understand that? Okay, don't understand that. Be your big bosses, your multi-millionaire selves, and go right to hell. Maybe you'll understand it then. No, they're willing sex up. I read it every day. They're proprietors of rape, murder, pedophilia. Well, they self-deal money to themselves. They know it. They make up excuses every day. It's too late, all of you. Decide to take my health down below a certain level? Then fine. God will deal with it. Oh, those are dangerous statements he's making. It shows that he's crazy. I'm a fool for Jesus, maybe, but not crazy. I didn't walk off the Marshal Service talking about anything. I didn't even talk about anything in the Marshal. I didn't know anything was going on. They all made bullshit statements. I did exactly what they asked me to do because I didn't know anything else, actually. Right. The only reason I was able to figure out what was going on is because I kept doing it. And that woman, Jen, and her friend come into the gym and play head games with a couple of supposed cops. I don't know if they're cops or FBI agents because they pull up in a Naples police car doesn't mean they're a cop. Right. Just the way the same the guy that said he was a deputy marshal. I don't know who he is. Could have been a drug lord from Miami, for all I know. Pulls up in a Crown Vic with lights and says he's a deputy marshal. Again, role playing, trying to create fantasy of the mind, while saying that it already exists. That guy will be in hell, man. That woman Jen will be in hell. What she did is she came into the gym with her friend, and she acts like she's speaking with her mind, trying to, again, cast dung or cast fantasy into my mind. But again, it exists. People can hear me. She was a sicko, man. They're all sickos. You have idea that everything I say is happening, and had idea that it would say it's happening. Again, if you're a congressman, you can just go to hell if you know it's happening and you didn't act on it. That's simple. That's simple. Don't overthink the Bible. I don't care who you work for. I don't care what party you are. You're not sorry. If you were sorry, my life never would have went in this direction because you would have been able to change yourself back in the day so that I would have a little bit more health and a little bit more life. No, I had nothing. In other words, if I kept pushing, it didn't matter because the other person would be either hired on or made afraid. You don't know how it happened? Bullshit. It's how you made your money. Every last one of you stayed in the government. Why? Because you did it. You killed someone, or tried to at least. So again, I was protecting everyone by protecting the system and trying to tell you all how to do it. But a lot of the people you fired were people that killed me in my life. Right. They're dirty devils. Again, it doesn't mean that any of you are okay. I don't know, You all from nobody. But I did help you with the first administration. Somebody took my information, I believe, and gave it to the administration and said it was theirs. Right. Again, I'm the father of conservative media. That was my idea. It wasn't their idea. Nobody thought that up till I said it. I was the father of building your own conservative social media. I'm the father of the big deal truth, like the big lettered truth. In my tweets, I don't know if anybody can see them. And you might laugh because you block everybody from it, but you'll go to hell, all of you. Everything, it's not a trap. I didn't trap any of you. Everything you do against me is a mark for you all to go to hell. So I don't know what you're all talking about or thinking about, laughing, ha, ha, ha. Again, I don't have to talk, I don't have to have any life to destroy this planet for its evil. Right? Nobody has to know I exist to destroy this planet for its evil. I just witness it and walk through life, and you all end up in hell. The people you point to going to hell aren't going to go to hell because they're victims of your criminal enterprise and your devil minds. Well, the LDS church is okay, but not everybody in the LDS church is okay because they already agreed to do satanic things to me while I attempt to go to church. So it's the same thing. Oh, come on, more, join our church. And then somebody's there blocking it. Push pull. Depletion. Same thing as a sex cult. But they go proper in their suits, don't they? Don't have to stop anything. You all decided to attack my church membership. You aren't testing anything. You've already paid money. You've already hired hands. You've already inserted people. So no, the Trump administration is not going to protect your religious rights. It's going to play a game with it. Now, whether Trump's part of that or not, I don't know. 100%. Again, I'm just trying to help you understand how to succeed. You're all failing. Well, Life Part 2 is a big deal. Yes, it is. Life Part 2 is the afterlife. No, you can't just say Jesus and have it all work for you. Right. Again, Jesus already articulated a system where certain people will not get judged. Their sins do not get judged. I'm one of those people. But Satan knew, had I wired into the system on earth, I'd have been perfect, or as perfect as I could be, and that's all God asks. And God says, you're perfect as you are anyway, because you've been given nothing, and you've delivered the more. No, God doesn't get mad. God just gets even. You'll go to hell, all of you. Be assured of it. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine, and you're all going to hell. So they create a hellish world where people sin and then say the sinners are going to hell. Again, who are they then? They're the righteous, right? Jesus Christ did not come to seek and save that which is righteous. Right? He did not come to save the righteous. Right? So you rule yourselves out. See, it's a catch-22. I'm not this person, Larry. I'm sorry. You're this person. You're this person. No, I don't judge you to hell. I'm simply explaining it to you honestly so you don't, so the future people don't go to hell and that you will understand. Keep going and you'll go into further hells. Right. There was no reason to touch my life in this way. No reason whatsoever. Correct, Larry. You obviously did it to my mother also. I mean, there's probably a disabled woman out there that could have met me. We could have married, had a simple life, and gone to church. And that's it. Right. They gave Gary Shovlin Philadelphia because they knew they were going to spring the trap. Right. 1%, Larry. So he would carry the deep state hit contract to Philadelphia, just in case I moved back to that area. And in fact, may have been responsible for hitting my family prior to my even arrival back in Philadelphia or the Delaware Valley. No, I was okay. Everybody knows the marshals. The marshals are just cronies, and you don't expect anything from them. Right. I was okay with that. I wasn't like some guy up, bucking the system. Right. Thank you. But again, they're not supposed to be organized crime and racketeering members. Self-dealing all day long, 24/7. Look, if you allow sex crime to exist, if you allow sex trafficking to exist, where it's paying members or paying you and giving you power and doing favors back and forth, right, quid pro quo and all that, then every arrest you make for a sex crime is just bullshit. I mean, put it bluntly, it's just bullshit. Because you are that system. Right. Hey, Popo, what up, Popo or Mrs. Popo? Thanks. Going down to the housing development down there. Whoa, feel that. Thank you, sir. Well, I don't know what it is. If I found a reason to go down there, I'll heal it. Thank you, Larry. Oh, actually, he healed me too. Thank you. I got to go do something. Theoretically, this knot in my back, I can get the knot out. I'm gonna go give it a try. Right. No, they shouldn't have been allowed to be in my life. Obviously, there was disability from leaving the government on. Right. Obviously, it was disability before that. They were just trying to kill me and loose end. I wasn't loose end. They're trying to kill the they were trying to finish the contract, the murder contract. Somebody wanted me dead. I mean, if you're a real cop, somebody's going to want you dead. I guarantee somebody that was at Fort Dix ordered me hit. So again, why do I say 15 different things? Because it wasn't one thing. They're all part of an underworld, and they're in law enforcement. So now you know what happened to correctional officers, law enforcement officers, U.S. attorneys that got taken out. The crooks are paying. Right? Paying cops. Correct. I walked off, didn't say anything. They wouldn't let it be. 100%. I just tried to go to yoga and the gym in California, and they moved it out there. They was Burning Man type of people, burning an idol at the end of their little soiree. 100%. Same thing in Santa Fe. They have this big thing that they burn every once a year. The devil worship. They would call good evil and evil good. They cause people to fall and protect those that are evil devils. Well, stay peaceful. I'm going to try to get this knot out of my back. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.